The Bush administration's wiretapping program has come under new scrutiny this week. Two influential congressional committees have opened probes into allegations U.S. intelligence spied on the phone calls of American military personnel, journalists, and aid workers in Iraq. Senator Patrick Leahy and Senator Arlen Specter of the Senate Judiciary Committee and Senator Jay Rockefeller, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, say they want Congress to look into allegations from two former military intelligence officials. The two whistleblowers, Adrian Kinney, an Army reservist, and David Murphy Falk, a Navy linguist, spoke last Thursday to ABC News. While the network claimed that marked the first time the two whistleblowers had come forward, they had both spoken out well before last week. Blogger David Swanson wrote about them as early as July 2007. And in her first broadcast interview 5 months ago, former military intelligence sergeant Adrian Kinney detailed the spying on Democracy Now! Back in May.
I was stationed at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I was actually mobilized shortly after 9/11 with a group of reservists who were eventually sent to Fort Gordon to work a mission that it was actually a brand new mission. It was something not like anything I had done in military intelligence previously. And this new mission involved the intercept of satellite phone communications in Iraq and Afghanistan, and basically a huge swath of the region around those two countries. It was really brand new, and basically there were about 20 of us who were put in charge of this new mission to stand it up. In the very beginning, basically what we did was we would have a front end which intercepted satellite phone communications in that region, and then it would transmit the satellite phone conversations back to the United States, where it would just fill up this queue in our computer, and we would just go through, and all the numbers were unidentified. So at the beginning, it was just a matter of sifting through thousands upon thousands of unidentified satellite phone communications as we kind of tried to sort out what phone number belonged to who and kind of go through the process of identifying phone numbers in the search for intelligence that might be related to operations in Afghanistan and then later on Iraq.
And when were you listening to Iraq?
We started listening to the entire region pretty much immediately. I think this was December of 2001. And I was mobilized from October 2001 through August of 2003. So I was working that mission pretty much from December through August of 2003. And over the course of my time, as we slowly began to identify phone numbers and who belonged to what, one thing that gave me grave concern was that as we identified phone numbers, we started to find more and more and more numbers that belonged not to any organizations affiliated with terrorism or with militaries of Iraq or Afghanistan or elsewhere, but with humanitarian aid organizations, non-governmental organizations, to include the International Red Cross, Red Crescent, Doctors Without Borders, a whole host of humanitarian aid organizations, and it also included journalists.
Former military intelligence sergeant Adrian Kinney speaking on Democracy Now! In May. She and Navy linguist David Murphy Falk were also interviewed for a new book on the National Security Agency by James Bamford, an investigative journalist and author of two earlier books on the agency. Bamford's among plaintiffs in a suit filed by the American Civil Liberties Union on behalf of journalists, academics, aid workers, and lawyers who feared they were targeted by government spying. A federal appeals court dismissed the case last year after ruling the plaintiffs can't prove they were monitored. The ACLU might reopen the suit to include the new revelations by Kinney and Falk. James Bamford has been covering the National Security Agency for the last 3 decades. He came close to standing trial after revealing the NSA's operations in his explosive 1982 book, The Puzzle Palace. His latest book, which comes out today, is the third in his trilogy on the NSA. It's called The Shadow Factory, the ultra-secret NSA from 9/11 to the eavesdropping on America. Today, we spend the hour with James Bamford. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate it.
It's good to have you with us. Well, let's talk about Adrian Kinney's allegations, spying on Americans and international aid workers in Iraq. What's wrong with this?
Well, there's a lot of things wrong with it. First of all, they're wasting their time when they should be spying on trying to intercept communications to and from terrorists. That was one of the complaints that Adrian had, and also Murphy Falk had, that they didn't join the military to listen to Americans doing pillow talk, because a lot of this was intimate conversations between Americans and their spouses back in the United States. They've been separated a long time, and you can imagine what a lot of those conversations dealt with. They were very personal matters, dealing with finance, affection, and so forth. So they felt that they were morally wrong by eavesdropping on these people, and then just wasting government money and wasting their time by listening to things that had nothing to do with the war on terrorism.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things Adrienne Kinney told us was that she was spying on journalists at the Palestine Hotel. She knew they were journalists. She heard what they were saying over time. Here she was in Georgia, but spying on those people, those journalists in Iraq. And she said she saw a document, she saw an email that put the Palestine Hotel on as a bombing target. And she immediately went to her superiors because she was spying on them. She knew that they were journalists. She said, but there are journalists in that hotel. She learned a lot in this spying. Is this illegal?
Well, you know, it would have been illegal under the old original Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The way they've sort of contorted the new amendments to the act, it's hard to tell what's legal and what isn't, because they've taken the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court largely out of the mix, and so much of what is being done is governed by secret rules known as USID 18, United States Signals Intelligence Directive 18, which is above top secret. It's top secret code word. So what is legal, what isn't legal, it's very hard to tell, and I think that's why you really need a congressional committee to really take a look at this. What really needs to happen is a very in-depth examination of NSA post 9/11, actually pre 9/11 and post 9/11, the kind that was done in the mid-1970s by Senator Frank Church, the Church Committee. I think that's really the only way to get to the bottom of whether NSA messed up before the attacks on 9/11, and whether they're doing things that are illegal or improper after 9/11.
What other allegations did the Navy linguist David Murphy Falk make about what he was listening to in Iraq?
Well, he confirmed a lot of what Adrian was saying, and it's interesting because they cover such different times there. Adrian was there from 2001 to August of 2003. David Falk was there from November of 2003 until November of 2007. So you have this time period covered from 2001 to 2007. And they were both doing similar things. They never met each other. These are very independent views of what was going on over there. And so you have this continuum from 2001 to 2007 of eavesdropping on Americans. One of the things that David Murphy Falk brought up was the fact that not only were they eavesdropping on a lot of these conversations, some of which were very intimate, but they would have sort of locker room chats about what they were hearing, and they would post, or they would notify their co-workers that you should listen to this, what they call cut, their conversations. You should listen to this conversation or that conversation. They'd laugh about it, and you know, I don't really think that's what the soldiers over there that are fighting really appreciate. The fact that you have Americans back in the state of Georgia laughing over their intimate conversations. So, the other thing that David Murphy Falk brought up that I thought was very important and really gave a good insight into how some of this activity that's taking place in Iraq comes about. you know, when they're dropping bombs on houses and neighborhoods and busting down doors and putting people into Abu Ghraib and so forth. How does that come about? Why do they bust down this door or drop a bomb on that house? And the insight he gave, I thought, was very interesting. He was saying how it's these people here that are sitting in this windowless room in the state of Georgia, near Augusta, Georgia, that are listening to these conversations in Iraq, in Baghdad. And they're making instantaneous decisions on whether somebody is telling the truth or not. So they're writing out these, they're doing these transcripts, and then they're writing these little comments saying, this person here, Ali, is saying he's going to deliver a load of